good, big, full house today. That means it's going to be a lot of fun. Great. This is a workshop, and so we're just going to get right into it. I'll just remind everybody there's no structure to the asking the questions. Just please let the previous speaker complete their thoughts and questioning before you cut them off. And otherwise, this is a budget hearing. We're going to talk about the budget, and I'm going to turn it right over to Mr. Zimbor and Mr. Boyle.
Got it. Yeah, and they were required to be here, so, I mean, not by choice, but okay. But I digress a little bit.
Wanted to come on their own.
No, they did not, John, kicking and screaming. No, they're all good folks,
They'll be kicking and screaming at me in a minute, so you'll be off the hook.
Exactly. All right, so it's always a pleasure to come before you, as I always say. This will be our, I guess technically, second formal budget workshop, but we did have we'll call one-on-one with the council. So I think February 12th, and then that first week in April-ish, I don't remember the dates, but then we are here April 23rd to actually present the proposed budget. So again, appreciate coming for you. So let's go to the agenda here real quick. First page. I don't have the. Come on, John. We practice this, John. Come on now. All right, here we go.
Oh, there we go. Look at us.
It's here. All right. This is similar to what we did on the one-on-one, so we're going to follow the same format. So I think you've probably seen some of this information before. It may look familiar. We've refined it, and obviously it's based on the best available data that we have. So I'm going to give a couple brief comments, and then John and I are going to tag team fiscal year 24 year-end projections, fiscal year 25 projections, fund balances, assessed taxable value, our proposed millage rate, cost of living, staffing plan, CIP plan, debt service, and then schedule next budget workshop. We do know that Mr. Mearsman supposedly is watching while he's on a cruise somewhere in Europe. So, hello, Steve. Hopefully you're having a good time. So, wonderful. Okay. So, I think the council knows this is, if you don't know, this is my 9th budget. So, kind of bittersweet. I think it's been a pleasurable experience, saying tongue in cheek, but no, it's been good. I think the process has continuously evolved. I think change. I think more and more people are involved, probably than we've ever had in the past, which is I think it's a really good thing. I think people are taking more accountability, more ownership of the proposed budget, whether you agree with everything that's approved or not approved, or I think people are really readily engaged. So I think that's really good. I think the document has improved tremendously. I think the readability, transparency, and usability of the document, I think it's substantially improved since we've all been working very hard at it. So that's what I got to say about that. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Next. So this is a nice slide, and I think everybody recognizes this. Sometimes we celebrate. You got to celebrate your successes, and this is a success story. We have a very small, but I'll say mighty finance department for hardworking folks, led by the big guy over here. So he deserves a lot of credit. He even says, I'm always trumpeting the Triple Crown winner. Where, as I think we've talked about this before, but only a handful of municipalities in South Carolina have the Triple Crown, and we're the smallest. I mean, so that doesn't happen. There's a lot of work that goes in preparing those documents, submitting them, making sure, they check all the boxes, meet all the criteria. It's a lot of hard work, and a lot of municipal officials don't think it's worth the effort, but I got to give John a lot of credit, even though he says, why do you keep bringing that up? And I said, because it's an accomplishment that we all should be should be proud of. So, I mean, I appreciate John's effort. Let's see here. And I do this in jest, but the budget, I set high expectations for John, and sometimes he gets a higher level of scrutiny than maybe some other people, a higher level of attention than maybe some other folks. Um, but I hope that's made him a better finance director, and I know the budget is a lot better because of his effort. So, thanks a lot, John.
After all that, we're not going to give you a raise. I'm just kidding, just kidding.
All right, let's go on the next slide. All right, so I purposely asked John to put the slide in there. I think you don't have to be a mathematician, you don't have to be a statistician to look at these slides and know exactly what this is saying. Everything's trending upward. So, if you go back to 2015, the total budget was $10 million. And if you follow that first line, I know the colors aren't that great. I said, John, give me colors I can actually see, but colors aren't all that great. But you can see that first line, that's the total budget. I mean, going from $10 million to $60 million. The second budget is the second, that I think that goldish color, I'm not even sure, but that gold color is the general fund balance. And then, the general fund balance. And then the other line is the DA fees, which is that I think that greenish line. I don't know what color. I don't even know what colors we got there, but you got three lines, and they're generally going up. So that's all good. They're not going down. You did said we do have a little dip a couple times when we actually use the general fund balance. That's what you're supposed to use it for. You're supposed to reinvest your capital in your community and make improvements. So we've done that, and there has been some up and down, but generally every trend is going upward. So again, very positive stuff, very a credit to the council and the administration, and obviously having a very financially stable and robust community. So, all right, that's I think that's all on my list. The stuff I can read, my chicken scratching. But again, I appreciate the opportunity. So we're going to tag team. John's going to go through this. I know the council's seen this before, but we'll go through just the highlights.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
Good afternoon.
This next slide is, again, one that we showed in the first presentation, and then when we had our individual meetings we had. You see at the top third there is the general fund, all the pieces of the general fund from 19 through 23. And then the middle section there is all the other governmental funds, which is your DA fees, your capital projects, A-tax, H-tax, and then most recently the Hardyville Community Transformation Foundation. And at the bottom, you see our fiscal year 23 year end budget stabilization, the committed funds, the accrued, the unassigned, and the restricted DA fees, what we're projecting that will be at the end of 24, and then what we are projecting that to be at the end of fiscal year 25. A couple of things with the projections for 24 and 25, you see that we're adding about $1.4 million in budget stabilization. That's strictly calculation driven based on the growth in the general fund budget. The committed for land acquisition and economic development, that is going to be projected to decrease for both purchasing the land for Fire Station 84, as well as some land for the police department's training facility. If there's no questions, I'll just keep running.
Keep rolling.
Okay. And then this slide, if you'll see in the bottom line there, the two numbers that are underlined, we anticipate for fiscal year 25 a increase in assessed value of 31.3% and an increase in market value of 30.7%. So again, if you go back and you look back to 2017, we had a total assessed value of 30 million. Now we're at 128 million. And then when you go over to the market value, it's increased by almost 2.1 million, going from 580 million in 2017 to the current $2.6 million. So just a lot of growth in the last 8 years or so, 8, 9 years or so. And just wanted to demonstrate that to you, to show you, that we can, the continued growth and what that continues, the opportunities that that continues to give us as we grow. So then the next slide shows the historic millage for both Jasper and Beaufort County. And you can see in Jasper County, since 2015, it went from 136 down to 96. And for a number of years, the millage rates were the same. With the most recent Jasper County reassessment year, they became separate. And you'll see that now Beaufort County, the rate for Beaufort County is 102. And then the other thing that I know council is interested in is what is the overlapping rate? You see for Jasper County, it's 343, and for Beaufort County, it's 217. And if there's no questions on that, I think I turn it back over to the city manager.
A lot of up and down here.
That's okay.
All right, next. You got next. Hey, thank you. Someone's at the switch here.
Pulling that up here. They have it back there.
So I think the council knows when we had the one-on-ones, we went through all the information and obviously took at that point in time, took the temperature and the feeling of where the council members were at. And obviously at that point in time, which obviously is subject to change, because that's what we're here for, it appeared at that point that the council believed that we should maintain the millage rate. So as you know, the budget was prepared based on the same millage rate as last year. Obviously, when the council gets to that point, when you make the decision on what that ultimate millage rate will be, obviously the document will be amended. So as I told the mayor when he got his book, I said, Mr. Mayor, that was our proposal was the opening salvo. So we know that there's going to be some back and forth, and where that ends up, that's completely up to what the council wants to do.
As
Yes,
good a place as any to start when you're finished.
I'm sorry?
This is as good a place as any to
Yes, sir.
start.
Yes, sir. So that's where we're at. Go ahead.
Okay. When I picked up my book, Mike said in the individual meetings that 3.5 council members wanted to keep it the same. And of course, and I've made this public, I will not vote for any budget that does not decrease the millage rate. And there are a couple of reasons for it. And so I just want to, since I seem to be the most vocal one about this, I just want to point some things out to the council. Let me go to the page. Revenue, property tax revenue is up over $2.8 million. Vehicle taxes are $100,000 up. These are all increases from the previous year. Motor carrier taxes, $105,000. Two loss categories, $130,000. MASC, $100,000. Franchise taxes, $100,000. Those categories of taxes have increased revenue by $3,370,000. These are rounded up, but not far off. In addition, business license, an extra $100,000. Building permits, $500,000. H-tax, $500,000. A-tax, which we use for various reasons, $1,700,000. That category of tax increases, it's $2,800,000. Just those things. There's some pluses and minuses, little things, but those major things, revenue is up $6,170,000. Now, a millage rate is $115,000. So we've given a lot, money to a lot of things. But we have had a fundamental philosophy, even before I was here, of 12 years of tax increases, or decreases, excuse me. So not only are we having a record increase in revenue in this city, but by not reducing taxes, not only are we saying that, oh, forget it, everybody else can get raises, everything, we can do this, we can do that, but the people who pay the taxes, they don't share in the benefits of all this increase. But it also signals a fundamental change in philosophy of this council. And I object to that. We have had a philosophy on this council for 12 years, except for the pandemic year where we were cautious, and rightfully so, even though revenue turned out to be great that year. We have had a philosophy of tax reduction. To change that now is in a record year of revenue, I think sends a wrong message, and one I do not endorse and cannot endorse. But it sends a wrong message to our taxpayer, to the voters of this city, and to what they've come to expect from us. I don't think we should be changing our basic philosophy, especially with this increase in revenue. So that's my feelings. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I got one vote. It'll be no if there's no decrease in millage. So I've said my piece. I'll open it up to the floor if anybody wants to rebut, and I'd love to hear the reasonings why.
Let me go next, Harry.
Sure.
I don't think it's a question of rebut or wanting to change the philosophy. Thank you. My question in the note that I sent to, I believe, Mike, was I'd like to look at it from two perspectives, keeping it the same and 1% millage. And I wasn't as astute on the numbers as you are. I didn't research them like you did. And so that's my question, because I think the philosophy of lowering taxes and taking into consideration those that are residents and pay the taxes is very, very important. And if you lose that millage, it's hard to pick it back up down the road. So that's my question for you. And I am perfectly open to the reduction, but the other thing I was thinking about is with Mike planning to leave and getting a new person, I was thinking of maybe trying to keep the playing field even for that person, but I don't think that's really a significant concern. So, Harry, I'm willing to join you in that. I'd just like to get a little more certainty for myself, and I'm hoping to get that from you, Mike. And I ask that in enough advance time that hopefully we can get A versus B kind of thing. And I think that legacy of tax reduction is a very important legacy, and if we can keep it, I think that's important. Mr. John.
Well, like I say, I understand Harry's viewpoint, and I'll raise my same concern that I raised. I'm not a finance person like John is, and to a certain extent Mike too, but just like I said before, my concern is we had a sister city not long ago get themselves in a bind because they kept lowering the millage or not raising it, or lowering it and not raising it for so many years. And then they got in a financial situation, and they can only raise it by state law so many mills. So that is my concern. We have lowered it for so many years, and that's one concern. And I have another concern that we are going to have a new city manager. We are going to have a new mayor. It's just a lot of uncertainty, so I guess those three factors have to weigh in somewhere. But I also see what you're saying too, Harry, about some of the increases and stuff. But I do have those three concerns, and I've voiced those concerns, previously.
Well, I support everything that John just said. It's because it's very easy for us to decrease the millage, but it's really hard if we hit hard times somewhere to go ahead and then pull it up. My question to Mike and John would be, if we are going to drop the millage, how much does each household get back?
At $17.
$17. So I went to Publix today and I bought some groceries, barely anything, and I spent more than $17. That's the $17 I'll never, ever see again. So my thing is, you give somebody $17 back because of, like, what the mayor was saying, we have all this money. But that's $17 that comes and goes at the blink of an eye. But if we can give that money back to the residents in some other way, like maybe bettering our services or maybe getting another firefighter or maybe getting another Leo in there, to me is more, it's a more useful way to spend that money instead of getting $17 back in my check and then I go and I blow it. I can't even buy half a tank of gas with that. I'm going to ask Chief Woodward. Chief Woodward, how many people are you down right now?
Right now, I'm down, five
You've-
people. I've got 3 officers down out on workers' comp because of getting hurt on the job.
And do you think that you will be losing any folks throughout the, I mean, we're always losing or gaining people. Are you planning, do you think you will lose anybody?
I'm trying to be full staff by July. I look to lose at least 2 before July now. I'm getting word through my command staff that we possibly could be losing 2.
So you're going to be 2 down because of attrition. They're going to go someplace else, and you're 3 down because of injuries.
Right.
So the rest of your folks are working overtime, I'm assuming?
Yes, ma'am, we're having to work a lot of overtime due to schools, and some businesses needing off-duty officers, which they do pay the city back for that overtime. But there's a lot of overtime going on with calls for service too, so.
So it's not only we are seeing the upward tick in overtime, but we need to be cognizant of the fact that there could be burnout in there too.
A lot of burnout.
And for me to have an officer that's in the process of being burnout and having this burden put on them even more because we are losing folks because of injury or whatever, I think that money would be better spent at least trying to increase public safety instead of me getting $17 back in a check and I can't even get half a tank of gas in there, so.
If you'd like for me to go into deeper detail, I can, but I wrote all this stuff down.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is, yes, I would love to give the taxpayers money back in their check. If it was a couple of $100s, I'd be all over it. But because it's $17, but services to the city, I would like to see it get better. I would like to see, police officers out there. I would like to see maybe firefighters out there, I mean, if you're starting to see burnout in your department, that concerns me. If we're starting to see burnout in the fire department, that concerns me because these are services the taxpayers pay for. From my perspective, and I'm asking some of you folks over here, would that $17 make any difference in your life if we don't have adequate public safety issues addressed? That's all I have to say.
Somebody's waiting online to make a comment, so,
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, this is Councilman Mearsman. Wrote in. While I'm not present, I have the concern of unanticipated expenses in the hiring of a city manager and join what is built in the budget for the possibility of paying for 2 managers for a short time. And then he says, please ask this query.
This query, question.
he's concerned that in the transition of hiring a new manager, if at some point we face ourselves with having, paying for both. I just want to say a couple of things and to continue the debate. And John, I understand, and I've been through it in 2 states.
Yes, I know you have.
And what happens, you know, every state has some form of max increase in taxes. But I'm going to tell you what's going to happen if things go down. We have doubled staff since I've been here. What's going to happen in bad times is because it happens all over the United States. All these extra little jobs that we've created, we're going to cut them. People are going to get laid off. That's exactly what's going to happen if times really get bad. So that's if we're going to look at, okay, no more tax reduction, then we should, and because we're afraid of bad times, then how about all these extra little administrative jobs and all these extra jobs we're adding? Shouldn't we cut those as well? Because someday we might have to cut staff because time's going to be bad. So you can take that argument both ways. The point is, we're not in bad times. We have $6 million more to spend than last year. Nobody's getting cut out. We're adding 3 police officers. We're adding paramedics to the fire department. We have in those 2 public safeties, we have gone up 120% since I've been here. In personnel and money spent. We have not skimped on public safety. Okay? We have not done that. And again, in 2 states, anytime somebody wants to use the argument about taxes, they always break it down to the lowest denomination, $17. Ask the people of Hardeeville how much their tax bill is less than it would have been if we hadn't been lowering taxes since 2015. It's not $17, it's hundreds. My tax bill last year went down $500, the city of Hardeeville, because it's reassessment year, but because I was in a new home and I didn't have an excess value, so it's not $17 a year. It's hundreds of dollars each year that our taxpayers have saved since we started this in 2012. Yes, you can break it down to the smallest denominator, and that supports the argument, but it's not the reality of tax reduction and tax reduction over the years. And we have, and again, all those issues, all those factors, with $6 million more, we are saying we are going to change the fundamental philosophy of taxes on this. I won't be part of it. And go ask your neighbors what they feel about it. And because we have plenty of money to do what we want to do. And we also have an additional, how many people we're going to add to the staff? What's proposed? 10. 10 on top of the 156 that we have now. I mean, we keep adding and adding and adding. So if we're going to have a philosophy, we can't we can't lower taxes because we're worried about future times, or we're worried about this, that, then we shouldn't be raising the number of people. And I'll have something to say about that as well. But I respect your concerns and everybody's concerns, but to me, they're offset. So again, I'm not going to beat a dead horse. I'm done.
I think that we all feel good about the fact we've been able to lower the tax rates for the citizens and all the implications. I guess where I'm at, Harry, is this isn't a done deal that we're going to lower it or keep it the same. This is why we're having the workshop. And I think you've presented some compelling evidence from a lot of the research you've done, more than I've done, on the benefits of that. And I still want to hear from our staff, keeping it the same and 1%, lowering it. And my feeling is we're not taking a big risk if we lower it. I think we're sending an important message. My position of staying the same until we had this discussion was concerned that I might be making a mistake or doing something that wasn't fully thought out, and that was what I saw the purpose of this. And that's where I still am at, and I've had that discussion with Harry, and my mind's still open. But we need, in addition to Harry's point of view, keeping it the same, lowering it, and that's what I'd like to get from you in a 30,000-foot view, not detail by detail, but just an overview. Because, and John, I would say this to you with all those awards, when we're in the recruitment process for a new city manager, those awards and that page make our work a lot easier because of the soundness of our city. And that's another factor here. We're not an edgy city in terms of finances. Those awards speak to that. So I don't think this is as high a risk situation that maybe some people wanted to make it, keeping it the same versus one. I think we're in very good position, and that's to your staff and Mike, your leadership. So if you can give us keeping it the same, taking it down one, and just some of your insights.
We've done this before. We do counterpoint. We can do that. Was it Saturday Night Live that did that? Whatever. We don't need to do that. I would recommend both, and we can do that. No doubt about that. I would recommend that we, the millage rate, we wait till Councilman Mearsman gets back. So our next budget workshop, we have specific topics we're going to cover, and that's one of them. To be candid with you, I mean, we could go, and we'll present that, but we will. We can present what those philosophically and then numbers wise, what that millage, keeping the same, 1 mil, 2 mil, whatever. We can present all that. I think I mean, in the big scheme of things, if you do, and again, John's probably going to kick me because he's, we're going to hold hands and do the no, keep the millage rate the same walk. But I mean, you guys set the millage rate. We can make whatever the council by majority decides to do. We can make it work. I mean, we are in a very good financial position. So we can make an argument why we're recommending keeping it the same. We can make an argument, 1 mil, 2 mil, what we can do to make up those differences. We can do all that. And whatever the council decides, again, in the big scheme of things, I think it's what the council wants to put, I guess, policy-wise and what we believe is important. The reason why we're recommending, again, I'll just be very quick and then we can move on because I know it's a very important topic, is we've got a $25 million capital improvement plan that we're recommending, which uses a lot of city resources, including general fund balance. So you are, and I agree with you, Harry, we have a history of millage rate reduction, giving back to the community. People are sharing in the fruits of the labor and the economic development, no doubt about it. But at the same point, when we're investing tens of $1 million in recreational facilities, in street improvements, in stormwater, in personnel, as Val said, police and fire. When I have qualified police and fire showing up because I have a heart attack or I have a crime in progress, we're meeting those needs. And in order to do that, you have to hire people. You have to pay them competitive wage. So yeah, right. I agree, Harry, that we've went from 72 to 156 plus another, hopefully 10. But that's what a growing community needs, right? So we're fortunately have that opportunity. But you got to pay for the people, right? If you want to provide quality service, you got to pay for them. So I mean, I can stop there. I think it's a very important discussion. I think the council, whether it's a 3-2 vote or 4-1 or a 5-0, whatever it is, we can make whatever the council wants to do. And policy-wise, we can wrap that bow and sell it any way you want. But, I mean, we have opportunities, and that's what you guys are, I guess we'll say, paid the big bucks to make that decision.
And what you're saying is there's a window of a couple of weeks and waiting for Steve to get back and more discussion.
Yes, sir.
So that's still an open discussion, whether we keep it the same or raise it. My view is if we reduce it, I've thought the most I would consider reducing it would be 1 millage point. And I think there's something to the momentum and the philosophy that counts, and that's something that's taken 12 years to do. So that's not something to look at without a lot of respect and a lot of hard work on a lot of folks. So my mind is open to the change. I'd like to see a little more information. I don't think we're in a position to go way beyond 1, 2 at the very most, or keep it the same. I think that's the discussion point from my perspective.
Does that sound good, Mr. Mayor and the rest of the council? We kind of park that until Mr. Mersman gets back, and any other items that we need to put on the next agenda?
This is a workshop. There's no vote involved. It's discussion. It's a time to have everybody's point of view voiced. And so what Bo's asking for, and Mr. Mearsman coming back, there's no vote today anyway. The first reading is scheduled for the May 16th, I think it is.
Yes, sir.
So there's plenty of time to get the analysis that Mr. White's asking for. If you go down 1 mil, what comes out, what the 2 mils, et cetera, and give him what he's asked for. And then when you get to first reading, the discussion will continue.
Yes, sir.
Mike, Steve mentioned that where he was before he left was he was at the position of keeping it the same, and he asked me to pass that on, and I do that at his request.
And that's pretty much what he told us. All right. John, well, let's just keep moving on, and we'll go through it, and we can identify any other topics that the council wants to have more discussion on and move to the next workshop. Mr. John.
This is the slide for the CPI calculation and how we do COLA. We don't control it up here, sir. There we go. And you can see there, it's yellow on what I did, but it looks like a light green. It's 4.5% is what the calculation we've used for, it looks like back all the way to 2013 where we've been tracking this. The CPI calculation for like all households in the all urban consumers in the Southeast, the calculation spits out a 4.5% COLA for city employees for the coming fiscal year. And that's what we've budgeted, and I guess that's another decision point for council.
Anyone have any issue with that? So just to clarify, John, everyone gets cost of living increase of 4.5%,
That's what's proposed, yes, sir.
and everybody has a performance review and they can also earn up to 4% in addition to that?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, so potentially someone, a high performer, can have a 8.5% salary increase
If they had a heck of a year, yes, sir.
if they had a heck of a year. So, but that's the max end, and the minimum end is 4.5%.
That would be correct. Yes, sir.
Does anyone have any issue with that? Again, I don't want to, it's up to an 8.5% increase for our employees, and congratulations, you all deserve it. But 0 for the taxpayer. Seems a little disproportionate. How to get that in, John, sorry.
You've been working on that line all evening.
Yeah. I will have police protection on the way out, Chief? Thank you.
Yeah, right. You better start your car electronically.
All right, next slide. Is that Jess or Elizabeth? Oh, okay, you can't read those. We got to. All right, this is the same side that I think the council saw before. Nothing has changed. We went through, and I don't want to spend a bunch of time, but we went through the department heads and their request initially asked for 19 full-time equivalents, 19 full-time and 11 or 12 part-time. The budget, so a total of 31 total, but that wouldn't be full-time, just 31 total. And then the proposed budget includes 14, 10 full-time and 4 part-time. Does anybody have any questions on that, or any questions on any of the positions? I can go through that, or we can move forward.
Anyone have questions on staffing? So if not, I have some questions.
All right, yes, sir.
First of all, if we, in the record specialist, okay, when I got to that page, as opposed to every other position, there was no, like the one before it has class title, department, reports to, salary range, et cetera, et cetera. So there's no title. I kept going back and forth trying to, that's page 4 under staffing. There was no title to that.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, on page 4 of the second clear tag that says staffing in your book, for whatever reason, we realized once we put these binders together and they've been picked up, that there is no title on that position. So that is where that confusion comes from. That's entirely on me. But that should say the record specialist should be starting there with the beginning of page 4.
All right, so my first question on this, because I'm, you know, Mrs. Guzman said something very important. You know, we want to see actual, you know, we all support going to public safety. When we add positions like this is not somebody going out on a fire call or a medical call or a police call. This is an extra, okay? So my first question is, and maybe Chief, you can answer this, who does this work now? Who answers the door? That's one of the.
Nobody.
No,
No,
it's a problem that we need somebody to answer the door and do the records and do filing.
They would be doing filing records. They would be a liaison to our billing company. They would make sure that all of our records are, you know, sent to the state, sent to the feds, everything that we have to report and keep track of. They would also help keep track of certificates, expirational certificates, things that expire, make sure that we stay on top of that. We've got a lot more EMS requirements now for reporting. You know, we have to do reporting to the feds on the drug administrations and things like that. So that person would help keep track of all of that, make sure that we stay in compliance with all state and federal laws on that.
All right, so here's where I especially, again, I'm gonna keep going back. We don't have money to give, after 12 years, we don't, to reduce taxes. But we're gonna add something that is a new clerk, okay? We're gonna add someone who does filing and answering the door, all in at $66,000, which is a young police officer. What do we start a young, no experienced police officer, chief?
46.5.
46.5. So we're gonna get somebody to file and do records and answer the door for more money than somebody who's gotta carry a gun and get shot at. I'm sorry, don't shake your head. That's the kind of comparison, when we come to adding positions, we are adding positions. We have been able to exist without this prior to this time, okay? So now we're gonna do this rather expensive clerk. And so I'm gonna offer you a suggestion, because we're all concerned about, saving money here, even though we have $6 million more. Why does this have to be a full-time position? Why couldn't you have somebody come in 20 hours a week? It's 20 more than you have now, and you don't have to do all these other line items that, the retirement fund, benefits, $16,000, taxes, all come up to $66,000. You probably get, a retiree for $20 an hour, 20 hours a week, and you still have. So I guess I'm asking you, because there's all this concern about the money, why don't we think a little differently instead of, okay, we got the money, let's add, a high-priced clerk. Let's do it part-time.
That's what
It's still 20 hours a week. No, I'm asking.
I
It's not
understand.
what I wanted. I'm challenging you to think differently, because there's this concern about money and about, so why don't we think differently? And then we can lower the millage.
Steve, if you had someone there, say 10 to 2, and that was known to people, because there are people that need to come up and get burning certificates, and so I understand that. Could that work on a trial basis? One, it's going to take some communication so that everyone knows 10 to 2, that's going to be available, and they're going to do these things, or some other hours. That's just an illustrative thing. Can that work as a starting position and see how that goes? And my other question is, how is all this getting done now?
Well, a lot of it's new stuff, like we have our first May 1st inspection.
Most of it's news, I get.
But it's split between the chief officers at this point in time. So,
The door is the critical thing that isn't doing.
or if
Whoever
you're
hears
there-
that buzzer, it comes.
Yep.
I get it.
So that's just, and it may even be James and his crew that answers the door. It just depends on who's around at the time. We can certainly look at it, see what the benefits of a part-time person would be. Yes, sir. Definitely, consider it.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please.
I'm a big supporter of this position because I get a lot of people from local that go to try to get some help, and they can't get help because Steve and them are out on a call or whatever, and there's nobody there. We pass ordinances for burning permits. If there's nobody there, they can't get a burning permit. We passed an ordinance for a new ambulance, and they're gonna have to have somebody that's gonna have to coordinate between the billing company and people coming in. But I'm also willing to consider what you said, a compromise with a, if that's what you're asking for this position. But we do need somebody there, even if it's part-time, because there are people that go and can't get help. So if you want, like I say, offering a part-time, I'm willing to compromise with that.
It could be a starting. One other question, Steve. with somebody on top of the building, my suspicion is there are things that slip through the cracks. And a good case to add to this would be with a person working on those buildings. Maybe we pick up another $30,000 or $40,000 that's falling through the cracks, or maybe it's 10 or 5. We don't have to inflate it, but I would think that if you had somebody working that issue, you would catch some of these delinquent bills, and that would add to,
I would hope
Course.
so. I mean, we're so new into this, I don't even know how much is being dropped through the cracks at the moment in time. I mean, we're just started building in the last 2 months.
well, the assumption could be this, though, without somebody on it,
Yes, sir.
there's more that's going to
Absolutely.
drop through the
Absolutely.
cracks than
More eyes
somebody
on
on
the
it.
better, yes, sir.
Okay.
Will this person also keep, check on all you guys, whether y'all are up to date on your qualifications, your vaccinations, make sure your PPDs are done on time, that your continuing education is on time, and all of that stuff?
Training
so
officer
that-
does a lot of the continuing ed stuff.
Yeah.
But this would keep track of any certificates that they need to go redo, whether it's ACLS or their BLS cards or any of those, shots and things of that nature, like you're referring to. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so if, let's say, for example, a particular group of for y'all already, y'all need to get certain things done, that person will be the one that's responsible to say, hey, A, B, C, D, and E, you're due for this kind of thing, get it done.
Correct.
Okay. So it's not just answering the door and typing
No,
letters, this is a little bit deeper than that.
Good positive.
Yeah, okay.
Police doorman.
It's, yeah, I get you. It's a little bit deeper than that.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, that's my concern about that. The other position that I was unclear on, and again, I go back to what John's concerned about, if we ever have rollback, these are the kind of positions that end up people getting laid off because, everybody else has to double up. So I am very, just as I feel strongly about tax reduction, adding staff is something I try to think through as strongly as I possibly can. Now, I know that doesn't make me real popular out there, but then again, I'm a lame duck, so I can be unpopular.
It'll make you a lot less popular if you lay somebody off, though, that's for sure.
Yeah, and so, I'm always a little touchy adding people. When the finance edition, John, I know there was some conversation earlier in the year, there was some suggestion. Is this primarily, and I went through the job description, there's 3 pages of what they can do, possibly. You'll need 4 people for that. But is this primarily for the procurement that we talked about earlier in the year and somebody suggested and Mr. Zimbor said, well, last year I recommended it and it got cut down by council? Is that what we're talking about here?
That's what we're talking about here. Yes, sir, Mayor.
So, cutting down to what it is, this is about procurement.
Yeah, but to your point about it looks like you would need 3 or 4 people to do that. I think that also speaks to what you've been saying about we got to do more and all of this. This is a person who, yes, we could have a full-time procurement person, but we don't have the luxury of having just that. So we're going to do a much better job with procurement, but I'm also going to put on that person, you are going to help us with the budget. You are going to help us as we go through the audit. You are going to help us with our month-end close.
Right.
But the primary piece of what we hope to accomplish with this person is absolutely take our procurement to the next level.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure we all understand what we're doing here, because each department is adding layers. We've added the number of layers to, and each department gets more layered than it was 8 years ago, 9 years ago when Mr. Zimbor started. So, again, that concerns me. Now, I'll let Jen take her turn of
John, before you go, please, Sorry, sir.
No, go, please.
With the financial analyst person, and the mayor did bring up the issue about the procurement. So will this person be the one responsible for sending out the RFPs if we need something, scope of services and all of that stuff, making sure that if we do get grants from the state and federal, that everything is done, all the Ts are crossed and the Is are dotted as far as those grants are concerned too?
The second part of what you asked, Neil is doing a phenomenal job with.
Okay.
I don't even need to turn around. I'm assuming to have another set of eyes and another set of
Okay.
hands doing that would be a big plus for him.
Okay,
But the main thing that I look forward to having with this person the first couple of months they're here is to really routinize and have procedures. So every time Steve needs to buy a vehicle or buy a fire truck, you know, he has somebody who is driving the procurement piece of that rather than have his command staff have to worry about
gotcha,
that.
okay.
Not that they don't want to be involved, but then we have a routine way of going about it. We have, you know, from a legal standpoint and so forth, we have the ability to, okay, it's coming from Hardyville. These are all starting to look the same rather than the way that I would write one might be different than Steve, how it might write it and so on and so forth. They're all consistent and they're all much easier. It's said, and I'm going to screw this up, but you want to make it easy for somebody to see you as their best customer. So when we
Okay.
put an RFP out on the street, we want the architect or the builder or the vehicle manufacturer to see what we're doing, be able to clearly understand what we're looking for, and get through it. Because if it's not, they might not even bid. So it's a circular win-win to me,
Okay,
and I
all
hope
right,
that council sees it the
yeah,
same way.
thank you.
John, the expectation I would have, which is a compliment to you, that you'll get the same excellence with this additional piece that you've gotten out of your staff with that list of awards, and you'll go into it with the same vigor and the same excellence. And a year from now, you'll have a story to tell us about what difference that made
Oh,
in terms of.
absolutely. And again, as we grow, this is one of those positions that helps us take certain back of the house functions to the next level to where they need to be. And I'm sure the department heads would much appreciate having somebody to walk with them as they build out their RFPs and RFQs. Thank you.
We didn't want to
Anyone else?
overlook her.
Sorry, Jen.
You thought she was getting away with it. We're not asleep at the switch.
Jen, the PRT person, and you know, you and I disagreed last year, and probably going to disagree again. And I just want to preface it. I don't disagree with any of these things. You know, everybody, you know, putting forth their best needs, and that's not the issue. The issue is, you know, how do we put our money in the best place? So when I looked at the PRT person, I'm looking at in the perspective of the millions of dollars that we've put in PRT since Mike and I came here. This is my 9th budget, you know, and I have less friends after each one. But there was one person. There was no rec center. We didn't have 2 public works persons directly working for PRT. We've expanded. We've done wonders back there. And every one of these things I've pushed for, I've supported, and I praised what you accomplish. But now we're talking about something, and my first question is, why don't we have interns anymore?
We do have interns. They come in the summer, sir.
Oh, they are coming back this summer?
sir.
Okay.
Yeah, they come usually right around May.
Okay, that was my question, was interns. And now, part B of that, why can't the interns, because it says this person would handle athletic programs. What athletic programs are they doing that, like, the interns can't help with?
So interns are for a 12-week program.
Right.
So once the 12-week program is gone, we don't have interns anymore. So the full-time position is something that's going to be done year-round. So the athletic programming that we do right now, just internally for locals, is our basketball program, and then we also do volleyball. We want to expand. We want to expand on the sports tourism. So this person is going to be basically taking all of that off of me right now. As you said, there was 2 people when I got here in 2018, and we have expanded. And that's kind of where we're at. If we don't have the staff, we can't expand anymore. So that's why we're continuing to ask for this position so that we can expand what we offer, not only to the citizens, but also to those that are touring all of our area. So sports tourism is huge. You've got Tormenta that's growing, Bluff. I mean, the other day we had to turn a couple of people away because we don't have the space. I mean, we are the epitome of doing more with less, but burnout is huge. You're looking at the person that is doing it all. I am back there. If it's not me, Bill or Andrew are back there. Anytime that there's a football game, anytime that there's a baseball game, we're out there. Anytime there's a special event, our staff have to be there. So we have 6 full-time, well, we had 5, now we have 6. Dean came on board, and that's it. So we're all rotating around. So anytime that we use our part-time staff, that helps alleviate a little bit. And the interns get a full-on impact. So they are learning how to do my job. They're learning how to do Logan's job, Mel's, events, athletics, you name it. They're learning everything. So, but to put them in a caliber of a full-time job, probably wouldn't want to put an intern in a full-time position. It's great for them to learn at this point, but I wouldn't put an intern in that full-time position. So
No.
we're kind of at that precipice of does Parks and Recreation move and grow with the city? I think we're at 12,000 people, I think, something like that. Yeah. So, I mean, in the next couple of years, we're going to continue to grow, and same thing with those services. Those service needs are going to grow. I mean, we just had the Bunny Bash, and we were pleasantly surprised. I mean, you had people coming from downtown Hardyville. That's an adult service. So, everybody in our department works together on that. So it's not just, even though it is an athletic position, they'll also be working other areas like John was just saying about his position as well. So, but it's something that is definitely needed. And the number one request that we get from our locals is athletics. So we can't grow anymore without it. I would love to do more, but I physically can't do any more.
No, and I understand that, but the couple of things that you said that occurred to me. Number one is, we don't have the space to do any more, right? I mean, and so now I'll use an analogy. When I have dinner, once I get full, I don't eat anymore. If we're at the point where our staff can only handle this much, well, you have to step away from the table. You can't do a Bunny Bash if you don't have enough, if you've reached the maximum ability of you to perform. So I'm just, again, concerned about, adding people. It's not the people on the street that vouch that public safety. These are extra things to do extra in a department that we have grown maybe one of the biggest departments besides police and fire. So I'm going to ask you the same thing I asked Chief Camp. This is a very expensive,
It's $56,000.
with all in $73,000.
All in is with benefits,
Okay, with the benefits and everything
which is
else.
cheaper than your police.
But a part-time person does not have retirement, doesn't have health care, and you can get from a lot more, if you just need help doing stuff, then, there's another way to do it. And I would say the same thing I say to Chief Camp. Make this a part-time position.
So we
And
do have a
do as much as, and then do as much as you can. Because if you got somebody part-time, say a retired teacher or whatever it was, at $20 an hour, which would be extremely high, that'd be a heck of a lot less than what you're budgeting here. And then we could reduce taxes.
That is a wonderful suggestion. However, I will, with this position, number one, it's tax money, which is good. So it's not going to take away from the general fund. But we do have a position that's open, that's part-time. We can't fill it because nobody wants to work at night. Nobody wants to work back here at night. So.
Before you
Mr. Mayor,
go-
quick point, and then John, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
So, again, A-tax, this is not general fund tax dollars, so obviously the millage question really doesn't kick in with this particular position. You gotta spend, we have to spend those A-tax dollars. If we don't, we're giving them back. So, and then secondly, and I think even most importantly, this is one of the few, probably if only positions that actually create revenue. We're running programs, creating revenue. I don't think there's any other position other than saving, like the procurement person, that could save us money. I mean, because we're saving, we're putting out, we're getting the best deal. I have, comprehensive RFP, finding multiple vendors. This is one of the few positions that actually creates revenue. I think it was $40 or $50, $60,000 of new money. So it may cost us, $71,000, but if we're bringing in $50,000, plus we're paying for it by A-tax dollars, I think we're ahead of the game. I mean, that's I think the council should consider that.
Mayor, that's what that was gonna throw my 2 cents in. And also, I was gonna say that, if we recall last year, Jen did without, and we said we would try to help her this year. And so she's done a whole year without, and I was gonna add what Mike said, but it's not gonna pay for itself, but it'll come close, and it's not coming out of the general revenue, so I don't have as much problem with this position, and we did tell her we would help this year.
Yeah, and Mayor, we understand where you're coming from too, because, a couple of years back, I think you had challenged us to kind of look outside the box. And so this is looking outside the box, trying to figure out how we can still provide more services to our community, bring in those revenue dollars. And I mean, it's a win-win situation. So, but, we're going to continue to grow. Services have to grow. You've got Bluffton, Hilton Head, all those areas. Everyone's coming this way because there's nowhere else to go. So
Let me ask a
a lot of choices
second
for
question.
restaurants. And so.
How tough do you think it will be to recruit a full-time person, just what the market's like and this and that? What's your
tough at all.
sense?
Not tough at all. We just in South Carolina general, I mean, if you look at North Carolina, Florida, Georgia, all the areas that are around us where we advertise, these are really good entry-level positions that go very fast. Now, they don't normally stay, 5, 6, 7 years down the road. These are key positions that come in for 2 or 3 years, build something, and then they move on into, higher administrative positions. So trying to get somebody in, I don't think it's going to be a problem at all. And we have a very good team, that, like I said, we all work together to get things done. That's just how I lead. That's my philosophy. We all lead together as a group. So not one of us does just one thing. We all take part.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
You're welcome, sir.
Any other questions on that?
Nope.
All right, Mr. Davis, brief review, CIP. Yes, sir.
He didn't steal any of my thunder. I'm shocked. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I wanted to go over the CIP with you a little bit. Mr. Seymour did touch on kind of the big numbers earlier very briefly. Before I start, I did want to kind of just say thank you to everybody in this room and because they deserve a lot of credit. Those of you who have been on the council for any length of time, we haven't always had a true CIP. We had a capital budget, but it was a one-year budget. Now we've identified needs, for the current or the upcoming fiscal year and, in a 5-year program. And as you know, in your entire budget package now, we have these summary sheets, but you also have a project sheet for each individual project, which provides a lot of information and is quite transparent. And I think that's really important. And Mr. Boyle and really all the department heads play a large part in that. And I think, we've come a long way with our CIP and we should be happy and really proud of that. But as Mr. Seymour said earlier, in the current fiscal year for FY25, all the department heads, there was about $35 million worth of requests. If you looked out the whole 5 years, it's about $140 million of of things that are anticipated, wanted, needed, required, et cetera, mandated in some cases perhaps. But with all that said, so for the upcoming fiscal year 25, we're recommending about $24.5 million in our CIP. And I'll just kind of talk about a few of the bigger items. Obviously several of our intersection improvements, Argent Boulevard, US 278, et cetera, G2 Hudson Playground and parking, and even more additional parking at the Richard Gray Complex, some funds for beginning of revitalization of White Hardy Boulevard. Certainly vehicle replacement is something we have to do every year. Some new vehicles that we're adding to in Public Works, funds for to fund the construction of the Veterans Park, the first step in our municipal hub project. We've allocated or suggested funds for begin the design process for a new city hall. And, all those are paid for through a whole variety of sources. And we have general fund, we have grants, we have development agreement fees, third-party contributions, debt issuance, we'll talk about in a few minutes, and certainly A-tax and H-tax. And that's how we fund all those projects. And, it's a really robust capital improvement program for a city our size. But again, not all cities our size are growing like we're growing either. So, there's that need. We all have a vision that you all have articulated over the years, and, we strive to get there. And, we try to match these up as best all these projects up the best we can with the goals that you set every year. And I think we do a good job in that. With that said, I'll try to answer any questions you have, or perhaps any department heads if you have specific questions about their projects.
Anyone?
Pretty self-explanatory.
I have a couple then.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Matt, the first question is, and I don't see it anywhere on here, is the Boyd Street project.
I believe that's actually getting taken care of this year, so that's not, that's a project that Jody's handling right now, so that should not be part of next year's budget.
No, but, I mean, shouldn't it be on here? If next year's budget, there's.
No,
where's it
it's going to
coming
be
from?
done in this
General-
current budget year. It'll be
Oh,
it'll be
this
complete
one
with funds that have
before
already been
June
allocated.
30th?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay,
Because I was wondering the same thing.
Yes, sir.
okay.
What does Jody say? Is that true, Jody?
That is true.
Next question I have, I notice that back in, I think it was 2019, I think the council endorsed it in 2020, January 2020, if my memory serves me right. This council endorsed a White Hardy Boulevard master plan that we spent, I don't know how many thousands of dollars on. That number over the course of many years, if memory serves me right, was $10 million, $12 million. It was a big.
Be whatever we want it to be, really, yeah.
It could be whatever you want it to be, right? You're right. And yet, after what'll be 5 years, we're given $25,000 out of general fund and $100,000 out of ARPA money to put towards that $12 million towards White Hardy Boulevard. After all this time, and again, 9 years I've been talking about it since the first day I saw White Hardy Boulevard, nothing's gotten done. And according to this, nothing's planned. By contrast, the municipal hub, which came out around the same time, we have designated in the plan that the municipal hub will cost ultimately $9,366,000. So we're acknowledging that plan as we should, but we're not acknowledging the White Hardy Boulevard master plan. And I'm curious as to, why are we still not acknowledging the renovation of White Hardy Boulevard in any way? And on top of it, now, what was done even before I got here, the trees are getting, whatever we spend on those trees are getting chopped down. And yet, again, after the council endorsed a revitalization of White Hardy Boulevard in January 2020, we are still not paying any attention to it. And when I say that, in terms of what the money is devoted it to. But we'll add people so that, you know, God forbid somebody has to answer the door, but we're not putting anything into the renovation of White Hardy Boulevard.
Sure. Well, for one thing, would respond, one of the things that obviously was the first step in the White Hardy Boulevard was to redo the MZDO. We had to acknowledge that with some of the design principles that we wanted to incorporate. Not all of White Hardy Boulevard and that revitalization will be done, by us, by the city. Certainly, capital investment by the city is a part of it, and I think that's what this is, what this CIP reflects. But, as we've given you updates, we hope to have a public-private partnership before too long, et cetera, and those kinds of things. But a lot of the things that are proposed on White Hardy Boulevard are also private investment as well. And so we kind of have that, I guess that hurdle still to clear. But I would also say that with what we're doing with the municipal hub, it's connected, it's adjacent to the property we already own. I think it's all interrelated, and I think we just kind of need that catalyst to get started. But I completely understand what you're saying. I think everyone's frustrated that things haven't happened sooner, but it's going to take that public-private partnership to really kick it off. But I think putting this money in, certainly, it's not a whole lot of money in the scheme of our CIP, but it does send a message that we are interested in making that capital investment. But we have to start somewhere, and we're doing that. Sure.
And thank you, Matt. And I have also been spending a great deal of time working on an RFP for some engineering and design. As things have changed, as we've seen more of that need for that connection with Boyd Street and 321, our focus is going there because we got to get that fixed before we can fix some of the aesthetics that go around with it. The MZDO changes, which things are in the progress right now, that projects that are starting, we're going through the SRC process from, you will see those changes, and that money has been spent from working on that MZDO from last year's capital plan. I do think with the private investment that we're talking about, a lot of that, there's a lot more changes. I've had the benefit of being at a conference last week and talking about these, as you said many times, these plans that sit on a shelf and nothing happens. And I can tell you that things have happened. We're having to reevaluate. We had money for landscaping in there. With what Dominion's doing, we've got to rework some of the engineering so that the landscaping can be put in the right spot and not be removed in a few years as this was. So I do believe that things are moving forward. I think you'll see a lot more. We tried to be realistic in what we're going to spend with this ARPA money by the end of the year, and that's what the focus is for us for right now.
And again, the money that's devoted to any project here is a reflection of the priority that it's given, okay? And you know more than anybody, I've been harping on this. This CIP still reflects that White Hardy Boulevard is not a priority. And, because if you're not spending money, it's not a priority. Okay, there's a lot more things that have a lot more money, so they obviously have more of a priority. But what I'm concerned as I leave still talking about White Hardy Boulevard, as I walk out the door, we have, and we got a recent report at my request from Andy Fulgham, we're going to have 2.5 million square feet of warehousing that's going to come straight down White Hardy Boulevard and make it even less attractive for investment and revitalization. And probably, I know we're working with somebody, I hope that doesn't turn them off when they realize we're going to have a parade of trucks. But part of all that answer was, well, we're going to have traffic calming, we're going to do median work. That has nothing, all that's been in the master plan since January 2020, Nothing has been done, and nothing is devoted in this CIP in terms of money being devoted, even on the outside. And that's what my question was, and that's my concern.
There is money addressed for that, the traffic calming and everything at that intersection, as I mentioned before.
And I guess that's my question, because I don't see it in this report.
That is exactly what that's for.
I totally over the course of the next 5 years is $1 million spread out over 5 years. And that's not nearly what was called for in the total.
Couple of points, Harry. I agree with you, but I use this saying way too much. You got to crawl before you can walk before you can run. So again, I agree with you. In the perfect world, I wish we could do everything. And I understand a lot of stuff's beyond our control, regulatory, people trying to hire consultants, getting people motivated. But I mean, we got to be proud. We spent $1.5 million buying property on White Hardy Boulevard. We cleaned up those properties. We spent probably $5 million on the Hardyville Commerce Park, which is going to have enormous returns for transforming White Hardy Boulevard. You already have all kinds of private investment, people buying property, revitalizing property, tearing down property. That's already happening. So this is a snowball that's starting to roll down the hill. And I agree with, we've talked about it, and nothing's for certain. If we can ink that public-private partnership, you and I won't be here to see the results. I mean, but that will be dramatic. When someone comes in and buys property, the city, and then just to, finalize and I'll sit down is, we've got, a couple $1 million in the land acquisition. We've got another $500,000 or $600,000 in the economic development fund. Plus we got the, $3.5 million reserves. If we've got to come to the table and do our part if we ink this public-private partnership deal, you and I won't even be talking about when this is going to be done. It's going to be transformed. I mean, this is going to be like a miracle. I mean, this will be like unbelievable. So I hear what you're saying. Slow. It's taken a while, and I know that's been your mantra, and I get it. But we had to put all the building blocks in place. The big thing, MZDO, the White Hart, the standards, us buying property, us selling property, us getting in the right position to endorse the plan and finance some private developer who really knows what they're doing. So I hear what you're saying. I mean, maybe we could have done a better job highlighting that in the CIP, but there's components in there that I hope that when you and I are gone, these fine people are going to keep moving forward.
I can't go out the door without talking about White Hardy Boulevard. The next question I have, and I agree, what we're working on with this public-private is probably the most substantive progress that we could potentially have in White Hardy Boulevard. Again, I just didn't see the reflection of that in the numbers that were there. But at any rate, Juju Hudson Phase 2, $1.1 million. Is that field?
No, sir, that's to finish the playground,
That's to finish the playground with the...
as designed.
As designed with the splash pads?
No, sir. There's,
No, obviously, because if it's my priority, it gets put aside. So in the original, when we approved back there, Phase 2 was the consideration of a flash pad. We have not yet been put, that analysis in front of this council. The council may turn it down, but we have never been given the analysis on whether or not we could do that presented to this council. And now here we are with another budget. It's not in there. It's being ignored. Okay, let's see if we can stall him until December 31st, and then he's out of our hair. But just like White Hardy Boulevard, I'm going to be in your hair about it until I leave.
We want you in our hair. So we want
No,
a
you
splash
don't.
pad. We really do want a splash pad. But back in 2018-19, it was taken to council, and the splash pad was not it was not approved. We showed lots of beautiful pictures and imagery, and then we also, on top of the Juju, which there's two master plans, we had the Juju playground master plan, phase 1, 2, and 3. The 3 is the parking lot. We also had the Richard Gray master plan, which is everything that you see back in Richard Gray right now. So there is imagery that was in there, and we can share all this with you. We'll share the plans, all that stuff. It's all out there, but it will show you that the council approved nothing to do with any splash pad.
Because it
Talked
was
about
put, I know, I was here.
But it wasn't approved.
A lot
Council
of-
did not
I-
approve it.
No, we did not approve it at that time.
Yes.
And we agreed, okay, it's a lot of money, let's do this.
Yes.
So now we're on phase 2, and it's still not in there, in spite of, my repeated asking for it. Bluffton just did it for whatever amount of money, and so I'm bringing it up again. And once again, now we're going to go spend another $1 million on top of the whatever we did back there. And it just goes to my point before. We have put a lot of money in personnel, in equipment and facilities, the rec center, into parks and recreation. And I'm proud of it. I'm not disputing it. But as part of that, should be, and you did tell us recently you would bring us back that analysis. We haven't had that analysis. Now we're at the budget. It's not even part of what you're going to even consider, in spite of me asking for it. And I'm only one person, I understand that, but at least if it came here, then I'd find out if there was 3 people, 1 people, or I'm just quacking in the wind here.
No, you're definitely not quacking in the wind. I just want to make sure that I'm communicating it effectively.
Okay.
Juju Hudson Playground is what we're working on. Phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 is just for Juju Hudson Playground. The splash pad was never included or approved by council. So we do have information. I can share it with you all. We've gone out, we've got quotes for splash pads, all that kind of stuff, but it cannot go where Juju Hudson Playground is. There's not enough space. This is where we talked about having the infrastructure. Now, there is space that's back there. It's along I-95, but that's going to require a ton more money. So we can do analysis and we can bring all that stuff back to you, but just for Juju Hudson Playground, there is no splash pad that's included in that was approved by council. I don't know if that clarifies it a little bit better. We phased it out because of the cost. So, I mean, if we could have done it all at one time, it would have cost us, I don't know, maybe about $4.5 million all at one time.
So is this 1.1 approved?
Well, it's, yes. As a matter of fact, I think we had.
No, it's not. It's not
685.
approved until this budget passes. It's not approved. So
Well,
if you're
part of it
gonna-
is.
If you're going to talk about semantics, this is not approved until the council says yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay? The splash pads were not approved in 2019, but it didn't say we're never going to do it. So you're playing semantics with me.
I need land. That's what I need, for you to give us some land so that we can
But
build it
there's
for
the
you.
analysis, because there was even some talk about putting in a municipal hub. But again, until that comes before the council, you don't have, this is before the council. It's part of the budget.
Yes,
The
yes.
splash pads have never been brought, since 2019, has not been brought to the council,
Yes.
or whether or not they want it.
Yes, we just don't have anywhere to put it. I guess that's kind of where we're at. But again, I can pull up an analysis and do all of that for you and bring it in front of council. If
I
there's
just thought
land opportunities.
that's what we were talking about.
Yeah.
All right, I only have one other question. I noticed we were putting $900,000 into Old City Hall, and that was presented to the council that was in dire need, and no dispute of that. But it did occur to me as I'm looking at that number, it's a big number, right? It's a big number. And part of that, is that partly that's all out of general fund. It's all coming out of general fund, right?
And it is a bit of a placeholder right now. We are doing some exploratory work right now. I mean, it may bear out that it just makes more sense to demolish that structure, depending what we find. That's where we are right now. Just timing's not ideal with the budget right now, but
Well, I'm not questioning the 900,000. What I'm questioning is this. It's a lot of money. And now you're saying, I would hate to tear down a historical building. I still have nightmares about taking the Hayward House down. But if we're going to spend that kind of money, the Chamber of Commerce is like the Maytag repairman. It's empty a lot. Let's say we can save it. We're going to put $900,000 in it. And this doesn't have to be discussion, but I just want to put it in everybody's mind. Couldn't we utilize that building better after spending all that money? Do we really need the chamber sitting there all by themselves every day? And again, you don't have to answer that. But I think that's something we should all think about. What, if we're going to spend that kind of money on restoring a historical building, and I'm certainly in favor, and I don't question the money, what's the best utilization of that building where the city and the public can get the best use out of? Just something to think about.
Absolutely. We all agree with that. So JB's going to get busy.
What? Wait a minute.
We all agree.
You want to re-say that? You agree with that?
I agree. We agree wholeheartedly. No, so all candid. So JB's going to get busy. Then we will have an analysis. What's the current condition of the building? What are our options and what are the costs going to be? And you're exactly right. But there's more people that go in there, right? I mean, it's the chamber. We had Low Country Legal in there. We had, we could have had, well, in the past, we had the county officers. We had the media in there. So, I mean, our whole goal is, well, you had the space needs study. We have a lot of really needs and not a lot of space. So you're right. So we've got to maximize whatever we're going to do with between 500 and 950,000. I agree with you.
Okay.
Hopefully, John, probably by a month from now, we'll be able to have a real good discussion about what we do or what we recommend and what you guys want to do.
And Low Country Legal Volunteers expanding that, Bluffton Health Self-Help. What's the best utilization after investing all that money? What's the best utilization of that building? I don't have any other questions, but I do have one public comment that I need to read into it. So, council, are there any other comments or questions that you have for staff? We do have a 5 o'clock deadline, so we do have a couple more minutes. John, did you have more?
We had one more page, sir.
I have a question for you,
Another
Jennifer.
page? Oh, you don't want any more questions from me, do you?
Jennifer, my question, just a quick one. At some time, without spending tons of hours on this, could you just sort of give us a comment on those splash pads, what the cost is now? I'm just curious, and so you could do that. I know you have it, and I'm not asking now, but we'll be together again. If you could give us an update on that,
We'll
please.
send it tonight.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Hello again. The last page we have, or my last page anyway, is the debt service page. And it just, you'll see at the top, we have laid out everything that we currently have, and then you see the proposed additions for fiscal year '25. And we walk through all of these in the one-on-one meetings with council. You see, we're proposing to borrow $1.9 million for the Veterans Park Municipal Hub, another $1 million for that City Hall expansion, and for the Fire Station 82 rebuild, we're anticipating borrowing $3,050,000. And then we have various and sundry vehicle and equipment acquisition, which we would like to include in one borrowing, and that is 6 police cars, a truck for new staff at, for building safety, and a excavator for, a mini excavator for Public Works. And there's another vehicle in there as well. The fire department's replacing one SUV for the fire department. That's what that last $924,000 in borrowing. Any questions on the proposed additions to debt service? Okay. Thank you.
So, John, the recreation center, we've been paying, the original plan was the bulk of that was being paid by ATAX funds.
Yes, sir. Both.
I'm sorry, Mike.
The whole thing is paid for by H-Tax and A-Tax.
Okay, the whole thing was.
Whole thing,
Oh,
no general
right.
fund tax dollars. I think initially we thought some general fund money because we weren't completely on our projections to have enough to pay for it, but again, it's more than enough to pay for debt service. So no general fund tax dollars goes to the.
Okay,
paying off
so we have enough H-Tax and A-Tax funds to continue to pay off that recreation center. And the reason I asked the question, because there's a lot of other things like the recreation person who are going to be using that A-Tax
Yes, sir.
slash.
Not pay it off like right now, but to.
No, but,
meet our principal
so
needs.
it never has to come out
Yeah,
of general
at-
fund.
At this point,
Correct.
we are very comfortable, I'm sorry, John, I'm walking over you, but we are very comfortable with our projections and that we will have more than enough to pay that debt service.
And there is a tab in your book that it says A-Tax and H-Tax, and
Right.
it does have the one page that shows the anticipated debt service for all of those, as well as, and that includes the 15% that we could use for affordable housing, as well as funding the position for recreation for beginning in this fiscal year and going out. I think that goes to fiscal year 30. And it shows that we would continue to have enough fund balance to comfortably cover both the new position, the affordable housing, and all of our debt service, and then whatever else we might decide to participate in.
Council? All right, I've received some emails over the weekend regarding the fire department, and I've shared that with the chiefs and Mike. And I think it's important, although it's somewhat related to the budget because it's the use of equipment. And Chief, you know what I'm about to ask you because I forwarded this to you. But one of our residents was questioning why our fire department responds to 100% of the medical calls, and was questioning whether or not this was not a necessary use of time. So could you please explain to the public why fire vehicles go on medical calls?
Yes, sir. There's many reasons. First off, I don't want to be rude, but not everybody is of small stature and it's easy to move in and out of houses. So the larger the population, the harder it is to get them in and out. We've done things to try to compensate for that. With our ambulance, we've got some special lifting things, but that doesn't get them in between the bathtub and the toilet. Seems to be where everybody likes to fall, and it's hard to get people out. So one is extra hands, keep our own personnel from getting hurt by trying to lift people out of these crazy positions that they wind up in. Another reason is, as good as our dispatch is, people don't always tell us exactly what's going on, and we wind up You know, we get told, oh, this guy's got a broken toe, and we get there and half his leg is hanging off. So it's never what it seems to be. So that's another reason. And third, all of our firemen are EMTs at minimum. So we can start medical treatment immediately, no matter where that ambulance is. And that's the biggest thing is let's save time, because time, as you know, Mayor, is very critical to getting an AED on someone.
I certainly do.
Yes, sir. So that is our main reason is time. We try, because you never know where the calls are. The ambulances are always running all over the city, all over the county. You never know where they're at. Our fire trucks are generally, as you know, we only use 5% of our time is on actual fires. So we try to make up that difference with the ambulances instead of spending all this, you know, having ambulances sitting around doing anything. We've already got the fire trucks, so let's use them on the medical calls. Let's use these trained guys that are already there. We have, like you said, several miles of interstate on that email, and that requires more than just an ambulance. You got to have the tools to get in and out of these vehicles. You got to be able to cut the roofs off, cut the doors off. So there's many, many reasons. Our main reason, though, is saving time. And time is heart muscle, time is brain tissue, and that is our main reason.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay.
Is that good enough? I got more if you need more.
Well, no, and again, you saw my response.
Yes, sir. And you hit a lot of it on the head. That's very good.
A lot of this is the same because if you recall, many, many years ago, I asked the same questions.
Yes, sir.
And you gave me these answers, but I think it's important that the public understand, not from me,
Absolutely.
but from you,
Absolutely.
you know, why we have these things. Second question. These protocols of having a fire vehicle go and respond to medical calls, is this statutory, meaning is it required by law? Is it customary? Is it customary to the Low Country? Is it customary to South Carolina? Or is it just customary for us? How prevalent is this custom?
It's becoming more and more prevalent by the year. As more and more fire departments realize that these fires are going down, call volumes are going down, one way we can actually, you know, increase our utilization is to send them on medical calls. And it's been proven in some of the larger cities like Chicago and all that sending the fire truck does save that time. Time, like we said, is brain tissue, is heart muscle. So it is not necessarily customary, but it is becoming more and more customary now. And what you're seeing is a lot like we've done is these fire departments are starting to take over EMS services. You know, Chatham EMS across the river did that. You know, back in 1999, Southside purchased Mercy Ambulance Service, and they started doing the same thing that we're doing. So it's becoming more and more common. It is not 100% common across the country yet, but it is more and more common. A lot of your bigger cities are doing it. So as it trickles down, it will become pretty much customary across the country, I would say. There's nothing statutory to it. No.
Right, okay, so just, again, I want the public to understand it, because obviously if one person's making these questions, there's probably other people who don't understand.
And I actually looked online yesterday after you sent the email, and there are lots of different fire department websites that have that exact same question. Why does the fire truck come to an EMS call? So we will get with James and his crew, and we'll get one of those FAQs kind of thing on our website. That way, if they have a question, they can go to our website and get the answers.
That would be excellent, and, you know, if we can get that around to the community who, you know, so that these questions, you know, people understand them and they don't answer. And as you recall, I answered this person that roughly 80% of our calls are medical. But having said that, and again, you know what I answered him. If we didn't send our medical trucks to, or fire trucks to these medical calls, how many firefighters could we eliminate?
If we didn't send them to the thing?
Yeah, if they didn't have to go on medical calls, how could we reduce our fire department?
No, sir.
And why
Our
not?
staffing is based on the fire threat that we have and the safety of the firefighters when they're on actual structure fires and these MVCs and things like that. It's not based around medical calls.
Medical
Staffing
calls.
wise.
So, and again, you know what I answered, but it's important to be out there. If they didn't go on medical calls, Could we just leave them in the bays and save gas?
You could. They're still going to do their training and things like that, but they're going to be at the station doing whatever they can do. Whether it's
But I see
cleaning,
them going around, you check where the addresses are, you're constantly out.
Yes, sir.
Those vehicles,
Yeah, we're doing pre-plans, inspections, fire inspections. We're doing hydrants, driver's training. There's a lot of different things we have to do out and about in the public.
so those trucks are made to move,
Yes, sir.
whether there's a fire or not.
They're,
And that's-
they're the diesel motors, just like an 18-wheeler. They're what they call million-mile motors. So that's what they're designed to do. They're
Okay.
designed to last 10 years for us.
Okay, and just explain, you said we wouldn't save any money if we didn't go on medical costs.
You would save some gas money, maybe.
Okay.
But in
But-
the grand scheme of things, it's not.
But explain, as we all know here, that we try to do our fire stations within a certain radius.
Correct.
And why do we do that, and what's the benefit of doing it?
You try, and again, it goes back to time. Time is everything, just like in a fire. You know, you've all heard the rule that fire doubles in size every 30 seconds. Well, it's actually faster than that nowadays with these new materials that they're using in these homes, but that's the general rule of thumb. So what we try to do is we try to put these firehouses in where they can get there in a reasonable amount of time, 4, 6, 8 minutes, just depending on what, policy allows. That way, they generally stay in their areas where an ambulance could be running all across the city for the most part. So they're closer to most calls usually for that reason, is because they are in these communities such as Hilton Head Lakes and Sun City, where we're right outside of Sun City. So it's all based on travel times for those big apparatus, because they're not race cars. They don't get up and go 100 miles an hour. So we can't get there extremely fast. We have to be at least fairly close.
Thank you very much. And again, I've answered this gentleman, and he's given input before, and I appreciate all the public input. But he raised questions that I realized maybe the rest of the public isn't aware of.
And we welcome the questions. If you would, you send it to us, and maybe we'll add it to that website, and then we'll answer it for, if one person has it, that means probably there's more than one person that has the same question. So
And that's why I
try to
asked
get them
you,
onto the website, and that way we can just have one page that'll answer all these kind of small questions to make
Right.
it easy for us.
and that's why I asked you to answer it, not just for this gentleman so much as for the general public.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for doing it.
Anything else?
No. You don't want to give me an opening like that. You know better than that, Chief.
No. That's right. So I guess based where we're at, we suggest some dates, but knowing Mr. Mearsman's going to get back April 29th with jet lag, he may not be wanting to meet on April 30th. Why don't we just wait? I'll email him, see if he has any questions, so we can set up the next budget workshop. I'll find out what the council's availability is. I know we have our next council meeting May 2nd. The agenda at this point is manageable. So we were thinking about a workshop before it on a couple things, but maybe we could do the budget workshop before then and then defer some other workshop topics, maybe the following week. So I'll get with you folks and then Mr. Mearsman to see when he can meet, because obviously he'll want to have some input.
Well,
Yes, sir.
if that, and this is a question for council, it would seem to me, unless the departments want to revisit my part-time suggestion, but it seems to me, as far as council's decision here, it all comes down to whether or not we want to reduce the mill. So if that's the only issue that has to be decided, then, I don't know that we need a 2-hour workshop, but it's up to you. That seems to be coming away from here, the only issue left to be resolved that would impact the budget.
But also, going to Bo's point where he needed the analysis from keeping the millage at the same rate of last year to what if we had one point, with that analysis.
We could provide that as part of that
Yeah,
brief workshop
Okay.
that I think that the mayor's talking about.
yeah, and you could,
Perfect.
that analysis could be sent as
Yeah,
part of
yeah.
our packet. And if there is if the agenda's, well, you'll have to see what the council wants in terms of, you want to meet separately for a half-hour discussion, or you want to do it before a meeting, but again,
Absolutely.
as any budget controversy, if that's the right word, all five of us should decide it, not four of us. So,
I can do it on the first. Sometimes the workshop and the meeting is a lot of, there's a lot of time and a lot of thought that we have to be prepared to be sharp. And I vote, I suggest for me personally that we do the first, get that done, and then we get to our meeting and we know what we've done on the first, et cetera. So my preference would be to do what we're talking about on the first, not before the meeting on Thursday.
Okay.
and perhaps I'm sorry, Val.
You mean not before the first reading,
Just on the first do that, and then.
on the 1st of May?
Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
okay, gotcha, thank you.
Perhaps we could look at, because again, Steve's back the 29th, and, that's, what's that, a Monday?
Right.
So,
Back to the world.
well, I've been to Europe. It's not an easy recovery time, but perhaps there is some other workshop agenda item that, would be, necessitate us to come together and get more done than just a half hour, everybody come in for a half hour conversation. Because the analysis that Bo's asked for, we should all have in advance, right? So just some options to consider, and, you never know how these conversations are going to go, so whether they're 30 minutes or 3 minutes, so we should all consider that.
All right. Very good. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike.
Anyone else from council have any other thoughts that they'd like to input into the budget? John, we got 8 minutes to spare. So let's have a motion to adjourn. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Please say aye.
Good for you.